Welcome to Wrestling 101. This is an intro video to the course. I'll be doing these probably once a month or so, just to go ahead and get that timeline. I need to go ahead and make sure you guys have I'm starting over. Take two. Welcome to Wrestling 101. I'm Book Bear. This will be an intro video. You can expect these about once a month. I want to make sure I have the time to go ahead and provide you with the best classes I can possibly give you on the excellent history of such a wonderful history of this athletic exhibition, as I like to call it. This intro video, I'm going to go ahead and define a couple terms that you'll be hearing a lot throughout the courses, just so you guys have a quick reference. I'll probably go ahead and just write down the same thing in the description below, so you guys can always go ahead and reference back to this video. So the first term I want to define is mark. Mark is pretty much a fan. A lot of people use it as an insult nowadays. If you're within the wrestling community as fans, you might get the term mark, like, oh, that guy's such a mark, and it's pretty much an insult, but really it just means fan. Every wrestler, if they actually were forced to admit it, would admit that they were a mark. They're a mark, whether they're a mark for themselves or for someone else in the business. They're always a mark. Now, a term that is kind of an insult is used originally by wrestlers is smark. A smark is someone who is a fan who thinks that they're knowledgeable of the business. They know the ins and outs, they know everything about it, but they've never actually been in the business. I'm someone, I did train for about a year, and I will never claim to know as much as someone else. One thing you always learn about wrestling as you get into it, and if you're actually doing it, is the moment you think you know everything is the moment you realize that you know absolutely nothing. So everyone is a mark, like I said, but not everyone's a smark. A smark is kind of an insult for someone that thinks that they know everything when they really don't. Now, another term you'll hear a lot is indie. Nowadays, an indie is pretty much any company that is not WWE. In America, in Japan, if you're in New Japan, then you're probably not an indie there, but basically that's what that is. Any company that's not WWE, or to some people TNA would not be included in indie, but some people it is, depending on your definition. That's pretty much what that means. Another term is territory. This goes back to the 1980s and previous, where wrestling was divided into territories based on what part of the country you were in. Everyone had their own. There was the Northeast, there was the Southwest, there was Texas, there was the Mid-South, which was like the Missouri area. Florida was its own place. The Pacific Northwest, they all had their own different places those were the territories. At some point we'll get into those and the beginnings of those and how they ended and all that. Another term you'll hear a lot is booker or booking. Booking is just basically the card. If you went to a wrestling show and there was a card, that was the booking for that night. The booker is simply someone that makes the card, but that's a very simple term. To get more into what a booker does, a booker decides the storylines. They decide who's getting a push, which is another term. A push is basically meaning that you're getting pushed. Basically, you're going to start winning matches. You're going to be featured more because they want you to move up the card from opening guy up to the main eventers. So those are terms that you'll hear a lot. And the booker is the man that decides that, or the team that decides who's going to get the push, who's going to be moving down the card and up the card. Jobber actually is associated with card placement. A jobber is someone who's basically paid to come in and do the job. That gets jobbing and jobber get thrown around anytime anyone loses, they jobbed out. But a job is basically, it's your job to lose. Jobbing out does not mean you lost. It means that you lost in a way that made the other guy look good and made you look like you're a loser. That's what a jobber does. That's their role. Another term you'll hear is juice or juicing, or blading. Basically, when a wrestler bleeds in a match, unless they've gotten busted open the hard way, which means they've really got busted open, they've bladed or they've juiced, which basically you take a razor blade and you have it on you, and at some point in the match you go ahead and just open up wherever you're supposed to bleed from. Not done so much as today with all the regulations, with the health, safety. A lot of guys ended up getting some diseases and things that way, and so that's kind of gone by the wayside. Another term you hear is work rate. That's basically how good a wrestler is in the ring. The better their work rate, the more matches they'll have, the better matches they'll have, they'll be placed in higher positions. There is another term called the it factor. The it factor is that undefined quality that someone has that makes people want to see them. There's very few people that have it. People can point to Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Ric Flair. Those were guys that had it. It's an undefinable term that basically means that for whatever reason, people are always going to love you. Whether they love to hate you or they love to love you. Hardcore, that's kind of easy to describe. It's basically any wrestling that involves weapons. It's a hardcore style. It's got chairs, tables, ladders, things like that. You'll also hear garbage wrestling is a term that's thrown around. A garbage match would basically be a match that is only weapons. There's no technical skill to it whatsoever. It's just guys hitting guys with light tube and things like that. That becomes a garbage match. And then the last term I'd like to define is a one you'll hear constantly, and that's the word bump. A bump is any time that you fall during a match, whether you're getting tossed, whether you're getting hit and you're knocked down, whether you're getting slammed, you take a bump. It's one of the things that you learn how to do from the very beginning of wrestling training is how to bump properly. And that goes into the last thing I'd like to talk about is wrestling fake. Wrestling is predetermined. When you go into a match, you know who's going to win, you know how they're going to win, and your goal is not to hurt the other guy. The goal between two wrestlers is to make a believable contest where the people that are watching know it's fake, but during that match they suspend their disbelief and they think they get sucked in and they believe that what they're watching is real for that moment. So is wrestling fake? In the matter of the fact that it is predetermined, yeah, you can call it fake. But I do want to stress the fact that if you don't know how to do this, don't do it. Because it is very real as far as the bumps that they take. It has been scientifically proven. Every time someone bumps in a match, it is the equivalent of getting hit by a car that's going 5 miles per hour. So is the athletic part of this fake? No. These men and women, they train day in and day out to be at the peak physical condition to do what they do 365 days a year. Wrestling does not have an off season, and there's a reason why football players and boxers and MMA fighters have gone into wrestling and ended up not being able to do it. And it's because of the dedication, the skill, and the wear and tear that goes on your body to do this day in and day out. So I believe the word fake is not something that should be applied to wrestling. If you want to call it predetermined, if you want to call it scripted, go ahead. But don't ever take away from what these guys and girls do every day to entertain people around the world. And that is the intro class to Wrestling 101. I am Professor Bookbear. You all have a good night.